Hey everybody, welcome back to the Outer Rim. We are here to discuss The Mandalorian, episode 2 of season 2, also known as chapter 10, The Passenger. I'm Eric. I'm joined tonight by Tim, Lou, and Tom. Tim, how are you? Oh shoot, he finished his drink. I saw him taking a drink and I thought, got to throw it over to Tim as quickly as I can. All right, no, well, not Tim, you got to wait. Lou, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, although I don't think this episode could have any more, or the episode of the show could have any more titles. You know, The Passenger, episode 10, season 2.
Chapter, yeah, it can be confusing.
It's a lot.
It really can. That's okay. That's why we're here. We are here to help you sort it all out. If only we had more arms, like maybe 8, we could help arrange all of the things. Tom, how are you doing tonight?
I am about to go buy an industrial can of Raid after watching this episode. I'll tell you that much.
I still think that they should
sleep with one eye open.
They should have started the season a week earlier, and then this could have been the Halloween episode. Right?
Yeah, very true.
Halloween-ish. I mean, I know it's not, there's no like Life Day equivalent for Halloween, but in the Star Wars universe. But like this seemed like a Halloween episode. This would have been perfect to release the previous Friday, which was the day before Halloween. I don't know. Tim, how are you doing?
We had the crate dragon.
True.
I'm doing really well.
Yeah?
Beautiful weekend up here. I won't say unseasonably warm, but just, kind of warm as we're going into the winter season. Yeah. It's kind of the Indian summer kind of thing. And clearly I have a new camera.
I was about to say,
seeing this.
I'm very jealous. It looks really good.
Lovely.
So what kind of camera did you get, just for we technophiles out there?
It is some off-brand-ish kind of thing, but it was like insanely well rated.
Yeah.
And it was a 1080p camera with a built-in ring light that I could actually get.
Okay. Do you happen to know what the frame is? It 30 frames per second at 1080p, or is it 60?
Offhand, no.
Okay.
I through this pandemic, I have ordered 2 other cameras, neither of which had come in by the time I got this one, which came in 5 days after I ordered it. So I canceled my other 2 orders. Yeah. I just like really, really ridiculous that I don't even know why they're allowing you to buy something on a site when it's not available for months. So
that is a good question.
Yeah. But I'm glad that I got this one. I'm really happy with it. And I'm excited to talk about this episode. It was a really interesting episode, I'll say. I liked it, but it was very outlandish compared to a lot of the more recent Star Wars we've seen. But when you compare it to like the original trilogy, it's spot on. It is spot on.
It is, according to comments on the internet, it has been a very divisive episode. Now, I did not get to rewatch it. My last couple of days have kind of fallen apart, so I've just seen it once. I assume all of you have seen it at least twice, right? Yes. Okay. Yep. So I may rely on you guys for some of the details, but I can definitely speak to my my feelings on it. So somebody in the Discord server, it might have been Joe, not sure. So if it was somebody else, I apologize, but pointed out that there were a lot of similarities between this second episode of the second season and the second episode of the first season, as far as the big confrontation with the big creature, and then somebody else having to come in and save the Mandalorian at the end. By the way, we are going to discuss spoilers. And to that point, let me step back for a moment. Somebody had pointed out that on an episode of The Outer Rim, we had talked about not just the stuff for the current episode, but things for upcoming episodes and our speculation on what we thought was going to happen down the road. And while that is something that we are going to do here on the show, we weren't really clear about the fact that we were going to do that. So that's on us. We should have communicated that more clearly. But typically at the end of the episodes, we are going to talk a little bit about what we think is going to happen in the future, speculation. Because it's fun, right? It's fun to kind of take what we see in this episode and then apply it to what we think is coming. Okay. And sometimes that's also going to involve external information like production information and stuff like that. And I think specifically one of the examples that was mentioned in which this kind of came up was that there's been a lot of speculation that we're going to see Ahsoka in this season. It's not been confirmed, but there's speculation for it. And it has also been announced that Dave Filoni is directing the 5th episode. Put 2 and 2 together, and that was the speculation we had, that it would make sense that that's maybe when she may show up, if at all. And other people on the internet have been saying that too. We're not the only people who've come up with that. But we weren't really clear about the policy for the show and the fact that we're going to discuss stuff like that. So to be clear, we're going to kind of push it toward the end of the episode typically, but it will come up from time to time. So just wanted to point that out. However, back to the episode. What did you guys think of this episode compared to other things we've seen so far? I will say that this was probably not my least favorite episode, but of the entire series so far, it's probably my second least favorite. And not that it wasn't a good episode, and there were definitely highlights. There were really good moments in it, but overall, what wasn't quite my thing. I don't hate it as much as a lot of people on the internet seem to, but yeah, it's okay.
So I think the problem, the show is now feeling the consequences of expectation management. Expectations have been built so high, and people were willing to write off some of those expectations because they were just being built in the first season, and you didn't really know where to place everything.
Right.
But from season 1 to season 2, you get into the realm of the sort of thing you saw between, say, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. You know, with The Force Awakens sort of setting the tone where we're going and building that universe, and then everybody filling in the gaps with what they expect to happen. And in particular here, I think I'm seeing the same thing in the fandom that I saw with the Clone Wars return. Everybody had this idea that it was, you know, with only a handful of episodes, every episode was going to be epic and like world shaping.
Yeah.
And every big pieces were going to have to move on the chessboard with every single episode. And in reality, that's just not what the Clone Wars ever was. It ended that way, and it arguably started that. Well, it started with a little bit of stuff, but by and large, this new season was identical in tone and whatnot to the previous seasons of Clone Wars. And so far in The Mandalorian, I think we're seeing that sort of flash, or that whiplash, that folks are expecting big things to happen because the pieces have been set on the board. And when you get an episode like this, where all the characters in the main story arc isn't advanced by leaps and bounds, people immediately go to the criticism of, well, it's a filler episode.
Oh, I hate that word.
And I
Wow.
don't get it, because I'll get into my thoughts on some of the specifics in a few, but the world building in this episode, the nuggets that we got, it was all pure Star Wars. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And if we keep getting this stuff, I could care less about the overall story arc. This felt like Star Wars. It was great.
You heathen. That's all we care about is the overall story arc, Tom. I don't care where he had to stop to get gas. I just care about, it's not about the journey. It's about the freaking destination.
Yeah, but that's part of the arc, right? Is the journey. He's got to get there.
No. Have you ever been to Disney World?
To me,
how many stories do you tell about the flight there? But well, actually,
the line
thinking of some
is
celebration
part of the ride.
stories.
Yeah. So look, here's the thing. First of all, I think a lot of people were so wanting to see Boba Fett in this episode. After the end of the first episode, you had so many people who were like so set on seeing him. If I'm not, maybe these people never saw the first season of this, or Clone Wars, or Rebels, or anything, any of these shows.
Any kind of episodic show at all.
Yeah, very rarely would they like, oh, hey, look, here's this big, bright, shiny thing at the end of one episode. And you know what? The next episode is not going to go there because they're not going to follow what you expect.
I have a counterpoint to that.
They're going to continue building. Another story.
So to be fair, a lot of shows do actually, in fact, tease something at the end and then go to that the next episode. I mean, Lost is an example that to some extent. We didn't get answers, but we did see a continuation of where things left off. And there are a lot of shows that if they tease something at a cliffhanger, they do address it pretty shortly afterwards. And as we keep saying, most shows are not only 8 episodes. When you are so condensed, 8 half-hour episodes, back to what Tom said, there is an expectation that maybe not be fair. But especially when this is the only substantial Star Wars content going on right now, and to a lot of fans, and again, I don't think this is fair either, but to a lot of fans, this is kind of the redemption of Lucasfilm, right? This is a story beyond just what happens with The Mandalorian. This is a story of the Star Wars fandom redeeming itself, not being ashamed to be Star Wars fans anymore. Not that you should have ever been in the first place, but a lot of fans, I think, feel that way. And so there's kind of this unspoken push to, okay, let's make this epic. Let's make this like the best thing to happen since Return of the Jedi. Let's, which isn't really fair to Favreau and Filoni. But on the flip side, if you're going to show, like, we teased him in season 1 and now we see him. Now we see Boba Fett. And now we don't. It's like, well, wait a minute. Are you going to freaking give him to us or not? And I don't feel that way necessarily, but I understand the people out there who do kind of feel like, okay, we just saw him. I wasn't expecting him this episode, honestly. I figured he'll catch up later.
Either. And I mean,
but I get it.
It's kind of this, it's kind of this need to get like immediate gratification out of it. And this is episodic. This is a series. People also need to think bigger, very, very clearly. They need to think bigger than seasons.
Then they need to make the season bigger, Tim.
Well, also, this doesn't need.
I completely disagree. Okay. This is something. I mean, it's produced in seasons, it's released in seasons, but the story has nothing to do with seasons. I mean,
right?
There wasn't that big of a gap between the last episode of the first season and the first episode of this season in terms of the Mando with the child trying to figure crap out, going somewhere through space, need to figure out where I'm going to deposit this kid. And that's pretty much it. Basically, nothing fundamentally changed from one season to another. The seasonality of it, I think people need to stop thinking in terms of seasonality. And very clearly, they're playing a long game with this. My reaction to that whole term of filler is absolute crap. Think about the production cost of an individual episode. Do you think that they're going to waste that production cost on, quote, filler? Oh, I don't think so. And also, if these people, I mean, yes, I know there were a lot of people that when Rebels was showing and when Clone Wars was showing, people espousing that, oh, well, this is a filler episode, that's a filler episode. Episodes later, maybe even a couple of seasons later, there's now the realization that, oh, episode XYZ that everyone thought was filler, all of a sudden it really comes to fruition that, hey, a character that they introduced in that became a real pivotal character. Right. Or a planet that they were on became a real pivotal thing, or part of that story became really important. Trust me, you might not understand it right now when it's in front of you, but just freaking enjoy the ride, and it's all going to come together.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's the problem that the creators face is that if they rushed this stuff, if they rushed into the Boba Fett storyline or Ahsoka or whatever, they trip the tripwire of, well, this is all half baked. Why even bring Boba Fett back in if it's just going to suck, right? I would rather, and my perfect example of this is Grand Admiral Thrawn. That was a huge decision to bring him into Rebels. Did we get this ultimate showdown within 3 or 4 episodes or a couple arcs of him against the Phoenix Cell? No, that stretched over 2 seasons. You had entire episodes where there would be one skirmish. Thrawn would get a tiny little bit of information and be perfectly fine to withdraw. The point I'm making is that they wrote his character right, and then by the end of the series, when you had this final showdown in Forces, then it felt epic. He felt like he should. They built his character. They built the overall storyline. and it all came together. And to Tim's point, hindsight is always 2020. And I think there were pieces in this episode in particular that I think people just missed. And
you had to bring up 2020,
4 or 5
Tom.
episodes done. Yeah, well,
Too soon.
We're gonna look back at this. The egg eating piece that we'll get into. I think there's more to that than just Baby Yoda being a little toddler who's hungry. I think there's something else going on.
Yeah, they gestate in his stomach, and then later he's going to give birth to a bunch of little frog people.
Little frog babies.
But you see, now I got another issue about the whole filler thing, because I don't think it's filler either. I think this is a planned out episode to have, to build on what we had.
Mm-hmm.
It picked up right where the first one left off. We had, he was on the speeder bike heading back, and all of a sudden, that whole hilarious scene, which was awesome. But then, he gets back to talk to, what's her face there, and she's like, "Oh, I got this person for you. We'll get you, it'll get you hooked up with more of the Mandos, and you're all set." And that was the story.
Mm-hmm.
It went off the rails because we had that really cool, space chase scene, and Mando can fly that ship like nobody's business. I mean, that thing was that was pretty awesome stuff. So to me, everything all worked in there, except for the fact that the child's a menace.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my take on, is it filler or is it not? I agree with the three of you. I don't think that this is a filler episode. I think that there's meaningful stuff in it. I still would rank it probably second from the bottom of the 10 episodes so far. And again, it's a great show, so that still puts it ahead of a lot of good episodes in other series. Like that's not me trying to bash the show. It's just I think there are things that were meaningful. So number one, the Mandalorian is low on resources. Okay. So over the course of a season, that is a story building point. Okay. Number two, he had some pretty direct interaction with the rebels. So that, as you said, Tim, that can be kind of a foreshadowing, a plot building point. He has the interaction with this passenger. Now, if you look back at the trailer, I saw this, I was watching a YouTube video, and just because it was mainly talking like what we do and they needed some background video filler, they were looping the trailer. As they're on that barge on the water planet, you see these two people center screen walking along, and it's male, I don't know what we're going to call these things, frog people, and a female frog people, and a canister filled with liquids with some little balls in it. So I'm guessing, okay, here we go to speculation. If you don't want what I think is going to happen next episode, skip ahead about 30 seconds. I think next episode we're going to be on the water planet, and it's going to be a continuation of this. So this, the quote, the passenger, the frog lady, is probably still going to be around for a little bit longer. So this story is still going to continue and probably become something different than it is now. But we also get to see not only him not really having much in the way of resources, but his ship just getting the crap beaten out of it. And I'm sure that there's going to be some way in which that is going to become some sort of a plot device too. So I think this is more, and it's the second episode, right? So the idea that there are setups in this for payoffs later is not surprising. We shouldn't be expecting a lot of payoffs in the second episode. Now, when you're in a second season, the first episode back, you do expect some payoffs because typically you have cliffhangers at the end of the season finale. The Mandalorian didn't really do that. And I don't know that that's a problem. And it sounds like, Tim, this is also kind of what you're getting at. But I think a lot of people's expectations in general, just as television viewers, not even as Star Wars fans, is that if you're going to put a cliffhanger at the end of a finale, in the first episode back, you do one of two things. You either do something to continue a little bit of that, to feed you a little bit of breadcrumbs to keep you going, or you just laugh in the face of all your fans and give them nothing in that first episode and then something in the episode after that. Now, we didn't get anything on Moff Gideon, the Darksaber, but we got stuff on Cobb Vanth, and we saw Boba Fett at the end. So that was fulfilling. We left and our stomachs weren't empty. But now we have to wait on the Boba Fett thing. I don't care. what I didn't like about this episode had nothing to do with the Boba Fett thing. And it's not that I didn't like it. It's just that it's not that I disliked it. It's that I didn't like it. Like I didn't actively say, wow, I'm really impressed with it. Instead, I was just like, okay, that's a fine episode.
Can I also just mention in here that we have to reflect on the fact that this show is called The Mandalorian. It is about the world and perspective of The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. Moff Gideon is not on his radar anymore.
Yet.
For all he knows, he's dead.
Exactly.
He crashed in that TIE fighter.
Mm. He knows nothing about Boba Fett. He might have his armor. There's no indication that we know that he knows where the armor came from, mm-hmm. that who the Mandalorian was that it belonged to. He doesn't know anything about this Boba Fett guy. So there's no particular reason for these things to be imposed upon it unless they are going to persist in this world of the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we didn't see Gideon in episode 1 and Boba Fett in episode 2. I think you're right.
And so since obviously these are really big plot points, they are going to happen eventually because these people are either going to push themselves into directly into the path of the Mandalorian or somehow indirectly into, his world, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're going to go with that. But I think we should talk about the mechanics of this episode specifically.
All right. Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead and take us through it.
Okay. I mean, really just kind of like from a big overview, like I said in the introduction, mm-hmm. It was pretty wild and outlandish.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, I'll say, hey, the Lucasfilm Creature Shop had an awful lot of work.
Flexing.
And
mm-hmm.
the special effects people were doing an awful lot of work in this. It was like, fairly intensive with a lot of that stuff.
I want to throw in one critique while we're on this point.
Yeah.
I agree emphatically with you. The design of the spider creatures, the little baby spider creatures, all of that, really good. The prosthetics on the frog lady. Mm-hmm. But the child, effects wise, this is the first episode where it didn't work for me. 10 episodes. We've had 9 episodes where it's been really good. Did you guys catch that? Like it was just like, especially when he was running around on the ground and stuff, it's like it needed a little bit more work. It wasn't.
When we saw the full body, the full body shots were a little like,
a little rough.
But hey, you know what? Practical effect, or mostly practical effect. And I mean, I was going to say like a lot of the episode, the effects, the kind of more intricate plot points, a little kitschy, but again, not in a bad way. Very, very, very A New Hope-ish.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that you didn't like want to hug your TV screen in that moment when he finally defeats the bounty hunters and the child just like scurries over to him. My heart like did a backflip.
that was
I did kind of feel a little soft for that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
As much as I don't want to, say, oh, the child, but that was kind of cute.
I will admit what's going through my head is he's the baby's baby, the child's kind of looking up at him and he goes down to pick up the child. He's like, are you okay? And what I was feeling inside was he better get that jetpack back. That jetpack better be doing exactly what I think that jetpack is doing right now. Thump. Okay, yeah, it did. Now where's the backpack?
But that was,
okay, we're good. Yeah, sure, pick up the kid, whatever. We're good.
Yeah, but that made me smile more than anything else was having him just reach over on his wrist, push the button.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's awesome.
That was a classic moment. Another classic moment that, it's as if the way that I played with my action figures as a kid is on screen right now. So like you had in the first episode, the moment with the firing jetpack there with Cobb Vanth blowing folks up. And then in this episode, I could see myself as like a 10-year-old with my Boba Fett figure, like flying the jetpack around on its own. And, the fact that they're, integrating it and using it to inject a little comedy into the episode, I think was awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
I had a huge dumb smile on my face then. He just the thump of that little bounty hunter is just like
Yeah, that was that was a fun scene. All right, so after that we get back to what's her face, and
Pelly Mott.
Every single time with her.
What was his name? Dr. Mandible. The big ant creature.
Oh,
yeah, so
gosh.
he was what, a Killick, right?
Which yeah, I'm pretty sure was a Killick. I don't think Killicks are canonical anymore. I don't think there was any canonical reference to Killicks. And so this creature was not directly named a Killick, but I mean, Killicks from legend are just basically large insectoid critters.
Yeah.
You have to wait
still
for
in the video game,
guy
right?
to come out to confirm.
What's that, Lou?
I said they're still in the video game, right? The Old Republic. There was a whole
Yeah, but that's not considered canon,
series
though.
of Killick missions.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
thought it
that's
was.
No, not technically.
Okay.
No.
But even that, as goofy as it was, like that was the sort of classic Cantina creature
Yeah.
that, you know, all of us gawked at. And I think I have to go back and watch it, but I think there's a blaster burn above his shoulder or above Pelly's shoulder that suggests that they're sitting in the same booth that Han and Greedo were sitting in.
Oh, was there really?
Yeah,
that's
I need to
fantastic.
go back and pause it, but I'm pretty sure I saw something like that. But even like as outlandish as that creature is, it's pure Star Wars, and they're still able to inject some character into it. Like the moment when he loses the hand at Sabak, he's just like defeated, and you get that, even though it's like a giant ant that's sitting there in the booth.
I didn't mind the Killick. I just don't like that woman. Like all of the comedy seems so forced, and it's like it's written by a high schooler. It's no offense to high schoolers out there. It's just like, I thought you said you'd, you know, vouch for this person with your life, and you know, like, oh, I just met him 5 minutes ago. Like the whole thing, it was just like, oh my gosh, come on, really?
Yeah, Sandra, I thought that worked out.
No, everybody loved it except me.
So it's just you.
I don't know
then.
what everybody's problem
I mean,
is.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was, you know, it worked with her character. I thought that's the kind of character she would be, and you know,
Yeah.
it
But
fit.
I don't.
And
Yeah,
that's what-
it fits with her.
Get when you have a
No, I was just saying it does fit with her character. I just hate that that's her character because it's lame.
I think both her and Bill Barr in the prison ship episode last season are good examples of characters that they didn't try to write. I mean, they're basically characters that are written for the comedians to play themselves. And whenever you have a role like that, folks like Bill Barr and was it Amy Sedaris? They're not like mass media comedians. There are folks that like really love them and love their comedy and love sort of the way that they deliver things. And then there are folks that's not their cup of tea. And the way these roles for both of those characters were written sort of embraced their own unique style. So if you weren't already a fan of Amy Sedaris, you know, I don't see you liking Billy Motto.
And that's the problem. I think I've just, like, for her, she has a very narrow niche in which her comedy and her delivery style works for me, and it breaks me out of the Star Wars universe when I see her here. And there's nothing against her. She's not doing anything wrong. I know it's just a personal thing. And Bill Barr, I don't mind him in his role. That, to me, that worked. But to me, this one doesn't. But I'm grateful that it does work for everybody else. I mean, I don't want to rain on anybody else's parade. If people like it, then you don't bring her back.
She also facilitates story.
Yes.
So, you know, they're giving her character a little bit more exposition, and obviously some comedy and such. But her role in this is to facilitate things. Her role is he has a place to go on Tatooine. She's an established character on Tatooine. I would completely expect that he is going to be back to Tatooine every single season, at least once, because she is now an anchor character there. He has a place to land the ship. Up until the end of last episode or the beginning of this episode, he had a place to get a speeder. So they didn't have to explain away like, oh, well, where did he get the speeder from? Well, duh, he borrowed the speeder from her. she's also a person who basically, if the story necessitated, he could deposit the child to.
Right.
So she could be a temporary caretaker.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things story-wise that she can help facilitate.
That's very true. I mean, it works. There's nothing wrong with the character. Again, to me, I think it's just, it goes back to what Tom said a minute ago. For me, I think it's just seeing Amy Sedaris be Amy Sedaris in Star Wars. Just, it's weird to me. Like, it doesn't totally break it, but it's really, really close. Tom, I have a quick question before we get back on point here. Carrie in the chat room asked, the creature in the cantina, was it a Killick or was it a Verpine or some other sort of?
We don't have any confirmation yet,
Okay.
Other than his name. I think this is my great lament that the Mandalorian visual guide has been delayed into next year.
Yeah.
Because these are the answers that I crave.
Come on, Pablo, we need this stuff. How is Tom going to win the next trivia contest if you don't give us the answers?
Exactly.
Come on, Pablo.
Just languishing here.
All right. So we get off Tatooine, which is always my favorite part of any Star Wars story, really. Getting off the desert planet, especially if that desert planet begins with a T and ends with an Tatooine. And we're flying through. I mean, he gets this frog lady. The eggs, the egg eating. Another thing that just didn't really
I cringed every
work for
time
me.
that
I
happened.
did too. I'm like, oh, that's like,
To me, it was like
you're eating a baby.
there's something wrong. You're eating a sentient being's
Right.
spawn. I'm like, oh.
And also,
geez,
it's
yeah.
like, do you understand biologically where that just came from? Ugh.
Oh,
like,
man, eggs in
I
general.
was
mean,
eating
yeah.
while I'm watching the episode. That's the worst part. And I'm like, I'm just going to set this over here for now. I'll come back to that in about 24 minutes. Like, ugh.
There was that weird moment though before he sort of popped the can open the first time, where he's like staring at them, and maybe it could be this moment where, like, a kid sees cake, right, and he's just drawn to it in that way. But between his mannerisms and the music that was playing during it, and just there's that moment where he puts his little hand on the glass. And you see the eggs sort of drift toward him. I think there's something that we don't know about it. It's weird to think that involves him eating these eggs in some way, but I think there's more to that little bit. Because before it works as a comedy bit, but
Yeah.
I think there's some traction to this that we just don't know about.
Yeah, she's going to end up, by the time she gets to her destination, she's going to have one kid
Not gonna
left.
have any.
She's going to look in this
You
thing.
have
Where'd all my
one,
eggs
take
go?
very good care of it.
And then the
Well,
baby's going to burp.
I think we got to have that child brought to a doctor and checked out, because there's going to be some sort of gastro problem
Right?
going on there. I mean,
How much does that
he's
kid
always
eat?
hungry. Yeah.
This is also true.
Oh, maybe using the
I think
force
he's
just
part-
takes a lot of calories
My
or something.
2-year-old always asks about snacks. Every 5 minutes, snack.
I
So.
think he's part Hobbit. He's looking for like second breakfast,
Right.
and
But the thing is, even if like a 4 or 5 year old, you give them snacks, their stomach is only physically so big, it's going to fill up at one point. We've seen this kid eat like entire frogs that are as big as its head. And then
I
eating
will
the
say
little
bef-
spider thing with the goo coming out of his mouth.
that was kind of gross too. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's like, I don't know.
This is the first time that I think we've seen any sort of substantial sublight travel in Star Wars.
True.
Everybody, it's always been about, hey, the hyperdrive needs to work. We're screwed if the hyperdrive isn't online. The hyperdrive is literally a plot device or almost a character in and of itself on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
But here, I just love that like visceral reaction that Mando had when he's told that that's how the travel has to be done. He's just like, deals off.
Yeah,
And
no.
then it's this awesome little bit of world building that they don't take a lot of time with, but he kind of explains, look, there are a lot of dangers that are out there. There's a reason why people, beyond speed, don't travel sublight.
Did they ever clarify why that was such a big deal to the passenger?
Yeah, it's her spawn would die if they jump to hyperspace. So something
something about
They
the
didn't
eggs
say
being
why,
exposed.
but-
Right. I guess I was
forces
wondering
of
the
hyperspace travel.
science behind it, which is silly of me to wonder about in the Star Wars.
But I just
show.
thought that was awesome. And then he lays in the course. He's like a long haul trucker and goes to hit the rack, puts it on cruise control.
And you see him slingshotting around the planets on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then he wakes up to a pair of X-Wings.
Yeah. No, I like that interaction.
Yeah, that was great. And if you haven't seen Kim's Convenience, which is on Netflix, the actor that played Carson, the other X-Wing pilot that was not Dave Filoni, he's one of the main characters in that show, and it's absolutely phenomenal. That actor is a huge 501st cosplayer. He's
really?
got his Instagram and Twitter are just filled with images of him working on his costumes. If you're on Twitter, he will follow you back and he'll interact with you. So he's like just really down to earth.
Is that show good? Kim's Convenience?
It is. Yeah.
I saw the trailer. It looked pretty funny.
Yeah, it's there's not a lot of, heavy substance to it. But
right. Sometimes you want stuff without a lot of heavy substance or spider gut spilling down your chest as you're eating them. Sometimes that's a good thing.
But it was just awesome to see Filoni's character come back and Trapper Wolf, and you hear him on the comm like, "Hey, can we switch over to a different channel for just a second?" And he recognizes the ship from that shootout at the at that space station. And that moment where the S foils open and lock, it's like chills. You're like, here it goes.
Before that, I thought the whole opening sequence to that whole scenario was very cool and very realistic. I mean, that's kind of what I expect would happen. And it gives us some more context of, I'm always big on, what's going on in the world, around this time. And this gives you some of that context here. These two X-Wings come up and say, hey, we're all friends here. It's a cool day. How you doing? Hey, which one was your transponder? Yeah, one sends a ping. It's like, okay. He's like, we're going to need to do that. It's like, no, you're going to need to get me that ping. Oh, maybe we can go back to the base. And no, wait, here, I found it. It's like, it was such a, and like Tom said, when you look over and see the S-foils open up, you're like, oh, it's on now. It's like, here it comes.
Except
because that's just,
they went in a different direction with it too, because the X-Wings are very much like, come on, guy, don't make us shoot you down. Like they gave him every chance in the book and then several more chances. Like they could have blown him out of the sky, really. But
it's like the OJ car chase. They just chased
like
him
they didn't,
the sector.
Which I kind of liked that they didn't just turn it into a military encounter. They really were like, okay, maybe this guy's he's scared, he's running. Let's just go and like resolve the situation without just murdering him and whoever may or may not be aboard too. Like it was not at all what I was expecting, because it's not the kind of thing you see set up in the Star Wars universe, because typically, I guess, every time you see it set up, it's the Imperials.
Immediately fire.
Yeah. Or even like in Legends, you'd have Corsac or some, Corellian security, somebody like that doing. And still, like, once you run from the cops, then they always just start opening fire on your ship. And
the other interesting thing here is this little tiny peek into what the New Republic is doing.
Yeah.
They don't have a ton of resources, and that's clear. You've got 2 X-Wings that are assigned they're in the outer rim
sector,
somewhere
at least.
in Tatooine sector. So it's not exactly the best duty, but they're on mop-up detail. They're out there literally going ship to ship looking for holdout Imperials. I mean, it tells you sort of the state of the galaxy at that point, which was a really neat little peek into things.
Yeah. It's nice, though, to see, now that we've got Trapper Wolf come back once, it kind of implies that he might come back again.
I hope so.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I agree.
All right, Tim, walk us through the next section after the chase.
Oh, gosh. All right. So, where actually do you want me to?
I'm already getting the heebie-jeebies, and we haven't even started to talk about it.
Wherever you want to go with it. This is it's all you. Well, it's not Ilum, so we know that, right? Or at least we think it's not Ilum. Our speculation was wrong during our trailer episode.
And I'm not sure that the actual location completely matters.
Right.
It may just simply be a one-off thing that's where he was, and now he's gone.
Yep.
Which is fine.
Kind of skids to a halt with this great maneuver to kind of put him undercover, so the X-wing pilots wouldn't see him. Probably somewhere between the weight of the craft and the heat from re-entry, melts/falls through the ice, ends up in this cave, seriously screws up the ship, and he now has some serious repairs to make. I mean, it was evident that it just tore the ship open like a can opener. So he had a lot of things to fix on it. And somewhere in the midst of fixing this, the frog lady kind of wanders off. She ends up finding a hot spring. I did have the thought of, okay, real world frogs, they're cold-blooded animals, so she's going to lose body heat really quick. And they did kind of make that connection in the episode, and she had her eggs floating around in the pool with her once he finally tracked her down. And then there was this moment that was very reminiscent of Aliens, with eggs and face huggers.
I will say one of my favorite moments. I always watch the second time around with subtitles on.
Yes.
Because they'll drop details in there, character names and stuff. Her name is literally Frog Lady, and then when she talks, it says "Speaking Frog."
Right.
Yeah,
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I will say with her character, not since maybe, I don't know, Chewbacca, and this may be a stretch, have I seen an alien character infused with, real character and heart. And that was really neat to see for somebody that couldn't speak basic and really is playing sort of a specialized role here in this episode in the overall story. Them building her character and building that relationship within this, 45-minute episode between her and Mando, I thought was really neat. And I love the moment where she hacks into Zero, the old destroyed bounty hunter's head, and freaks him out, waking him up by using his vocabulator.
Which was a pretty brilliant thing. Obviously resourceful writing, but reflecting on the character herself. Like, she's not just some damsel in distress, if you will. She clearly she has some engineering skills. She had a blaster on her.
She's good with a blaster. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like there are these really cool elements that happened.
Right.
I know there's been a lot of talk about these spiders. Did we see them in Rebels or not? Tom, I think you were trying to track down an answer on that. Did you?
I don't know if I saw any. I didn't see any confirmation that they were the Krykna that we saw in Adelon in Rebels. Okay. They look visually similar. I mean, the coolest thing about them is that they're a direct draw from Ralph McQuarrie's concept art from Dagobah. If you go back and look at that, that's exactly where they got it from. And it's yet another example of them calling back to some of the foundational roots of Star Wars and bringing those into the 21st century, which I think is awesome.
Right. And that kind of goes back to what we said at the beginning of the episode about the fact that it still felt Star Wars. And it's because the inspiration artistically was taken from the same person that artistically did the rest of the inspiration for Star Wars. There's a synergy there that is consistent. So I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, those the spiders had this, like I said, the little ones were really reminiscent of face huggers, and you had that vibe when the child was kind of walking into this grove of eggs, and it's like, oh yeah, I've seen this movie.
Right.
And obviously just kind of their size and shape and stuff, they look like face huggers. And then obviously the big ones were these all out legit spiders, and they're pulling Spider-Man tricks on him, getting his hand stuck to the side of the ship and that kind of stuff. And then the mouth on it, when the really big one kind of went to the
we don't have to talk about that. No,
it looked like the mouth of a Minoc.
Yeah.
Which was kind of more.
I just want to say I love the fact that people
or like a Rathtar
who get triggered by spiders
This is not
Of
their
whom
episode.
I think maybe we have one.
Yeah,
on our
no,
show.
I'm not a big fan of insects.
I mean,
at all.
I am not either. I don't mind watching them on TV, but like, I don't like if I have a spider here or a
Slimy
snake.
things, sure. Slug-like things, things with tentacles, sure. That's okay. I'm okay with that.
Man.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
Just spiders and
Yeah.
insects, no.
Yeah, if you know anybody who hasn't
big
seen it,
ones
who
like
you know
Dr.
doesn't like
Mandible, I'm okay
spiders,
with him.
this is the episode to sit and watch with them, because then it's like you get a bonus as you watch it, watching them suffer through
Oh,
it.
you haven't seen The Mandalorian?
I got the perfect episode for you. Yeah.
It felt like a video game level come to life in a way, and it was
Yeah.
really fun, like something that you would see with big set pieces and stuff with the chases. That big spider is overhead, and you're frantically pressing buttons on the controller to avoid getting impaled and whatnot. I love that the frog lady, in pure panic, just goes into actual frog hops.
Oh
Is there
yeah,
a
Right?
that was fantastic.
Yeah. Wasn't the frog lady, somebody said that the frog lady race species was in Clone Wars.
It could be. I'm raking my
Yeah,
brain now.
I'll have to look into that. I'm not a Clone Wars expert. Whatever Star Wars trivia I am good at, I came into the Clone Wars after the series was already pretty well mostly completed. So a lot of my experience with it was binge watching. And I haven't gone back and rewatched a lot of it. So my trivia on Clone Wars is pretty weak.
I do love the fact that, unlike in the movies where you've always got somebody like C-3PO there to handily translate anything that's not understandable, there are actual language barriers that are either an issue or they're not,
Right.
depending on which character's involved. On one hand, you have the amazing interactions between Mando and the Sand People, where he's got this sort of bridge sign language to be able to communicate with them. You see Palimato be able to translate roughly for the frog language, but then it becomes a real barrier for Mando. He's just sitting here like, I don't speak whatever that is.
Right.
Yeah.
But then
And
he
then
knows
he
the
just
trade
continues
languages,
speaking
right? So he's
Speak Huttese?
the Huttese, yeah. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. You've got basic, and then you've got other trade languages that are common. Yeah, and if
Yeah.
you don't know one of those, you're out of luck.
Mhm.
I mean, even the Thrawn novels kind of make reference to that sort of thing in the Chiss Ascendancy. Like there are certain languages that are common across different species and different worlds, and if you don't know those, you're stuck. So
And it just that's a little detail, as is the stuff with the X-Wings and whatnot, that just make it enhances the galaxy. It makes it feel real. It's
Yeah.
not convenient. And the thing that I really loved about this episode is, once again, Mando isn't this overpowered character that just has the ace card for any situation. He's got a limited bag of tricks and a limited set of resources. And you see him sort of multiple times through this episode be up against it, whether it's the crest being really damaged past the point where he can repair it, to nearly dying at the hands of those spiders, which makes it feel like you're not watching a Jedi that's able
Right.
to just use the Force and whip out a lightsaber and solve any situation.
Can we talk about the Razor Crest for a minute, though?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is the second time it's just been damaged pretty bad. I mean, the first time wasn't damaged not so much as, stripped down and left on cinder blocks.
right.
But, I mean, both times it's been pretty far gone to the point where I'm thinking you need a real shop to put this thing back together again. You're not going to put this thing back together with just, the tools you may have on board and your bare hands. I mean, if your car had fallen through that kind of ice and dropped down, and you wouldn't be driving it. You'd be calling AAA and getting a rental.
By the
car
way,
for help with
Rebel
some sort of
pilots,
repair.
not AAA. They saw that mess and they're like, peace out.
Like they just leave him.
Right.
Yeah,
This
no,
is true.
We got you out of that mess. You're on your own.
Use
But I
your
mean,
transponder. Butthead.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
So
that tail
I mean,
light fixed.
it takes me out of the story a little bit when you can have a ship that's that far gone, and we're still going to be able to fly it off planet. I'm like, okay, that seems a little
Well, I mean, he
far-fetched,
kind of
but-
hobbled it off planet.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, space worthy.
I mean, I get you, Lou, but then on the other hand, it's kind of like, how many other situations in Star Wars have we seen where...
I know.
But so here's what broke that a little bit for me.
Legs coming through the glass.
That's
of the
the thing.
Though.
That's the thing. As soon as they broke through the cockpit, I'm like, oh no, they're gonna have some little montage where he fixes it, but like he doesn't have spare glass sitting around. Like what's this?
He did something.
Gungan spit.
He did something, and it's another situation where you just simply have to suspend our disbelief and say,
you
hey,
break
Star
open the
Wars.
eggs and you make a putty out of them, and then you just kind of mold it onto the.
He's got some of that.
I did love. Yeah, I did love when he told the frog lady, like, hey, wake me up if someone starts shooting at us, or if that door opens and we're being sucked into space. Oh, we'll be dead anyway. It's fine.
I kind of felt like that was out of character for him, though, to say, oh yeah, just kidding. It was like, okay. Fine.
It's like that K2 moment where they're approaching Scarif. They're like, oh, we'll be blasted and get killed in the vacuum. And he's like, not me. I can survive in the vacuum.
All right. Well, we should probably wrap up the episode pretty soon here. So yeah, Lou, he does hobble his way off planet. And then that's basically the end of the episode. Sounds like you guys liked it.
Yeah. I did like it. I thought it was good. It was fun. Like I said, it was a little outlandish. It was a little kitschy, but that's also very Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think if it's one of those things that brought Star Wars back to its roots. And I think if A New Hope came out today, people would be insanely freaking critical of it. And you have to put things, I think, in the right context.
Yeah.
And this is Star Wars. Just have fun with it.
Yeah, Lou.
And
cockpits just reseal.
And if you don't see the sense of an episode, like that episode itself doesn't necessarily have to have meaning.
Yeah.
Right now, just enjoy the ride, enjoy what we got in the episode, and expect that somewhere down the road there's going to be some reflection back on something that happened in that episode.
Yeah. My take on it, like, again, the episode was fine. It's definitely not one of my favorites. It ranks much lower on the scale for me, but as Tim said, like, it doesn't have to be anything big and epic. I didn't get that upset about not seeing Boba Fett. I didn't get that upset about not getting the bigger story arc. I like the bigger story arc. I want to get to it soon, but like, this is fine. And we're getting there. So I find it a perfectly acceptable episode. Even if I didn't get all excited about it, it was fun. Like, it was good enough. Lou?
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a great progression for this season. I mean, I like you said, I'm not expecting to see Boba Fett the opening sequence of episode 2. I mean, that's gonna be something they're building towards. And I think that's gonna be building towards where they're ultimately trying to go, because he's got to get somewhere. He's got to get some clues to get going. I mean, hopefully it happens pretty soon, because we only have 6 episodes left. But he's got to find Mandalorians help him find the Jedi, right? So there's 2 things he's got to find.
And Tom, your closing thoughts?
I call back to a comment that you made earlier in terms of where you sit it against other episodes. And I like that made me think about the way that I think about, my ranking, for lack of a better term, of the actual movies. I don't think of one being better than the other. I think of it in the context of, if I've got 45 minutes and that's it, which episode am I going to watch in that time?
Right. Is
this that episode? I don't know right now. Maybe, but I might feel like watching an episode, 6 or 7 times, and maybe this 2 or 3 times, something like that. So it's on a scale like that in my head. I really enjoyed it, and if I don't get massive leaps in the overall story, but I get great world building nuggets and character building nuggets like we got here, I walk away satisfied. So that's how I.
And to that point, when you do have time to just sit and watch one episode, I really like the Prison Break episode from season 1. And it's a very much a self-contained episode. This is that sort of episode. If you did just have a half hour and wanted to just watch one episode where you didn't feel like, okay, what happened before this? And okay, yeah, what am I missing that happens in the next one? Like, this is one of those episodes where it's very self-contained. It's like a little egg. that you can just take one of and consume just at one time.
Just
like a little soup.
Whole. Yeah.
just kind of just pop it in and
Just,
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Or 5 or 6.
Oh,
or 10.
yeah. Crunch all you want. We'll make more. Wow. So that's going to do it, I think, for this episode, chapter 10. The next episode, speculation time, and we're not going to do a deep dive because we do need to wrap up this episode of the podcast here. But I predict that, again, based on seeing the trailer and seeing what appeared to be her and the canister and a male of her species kind of walking on that deck of that barge in the water, I think that's where we're going next. And is the actress, what's her name? Sasha Banks? Okay. It looked like she was on that barge too, in that scene where you kind of see her with the hood and then she kind of slips off. I'm guessing maybe we will see her next episode, though. To be fair, we might not learn who she is or see much of her until episode 4, but I'm speculating that in episode 3, maybe we will have that scene. That's my guess.
Could be.
It's as good a guess as anything else. So, all right. That's going to do it for this episode of The Outer Rim. Now, in episode 238 of Echo Base, we are going to be talking about a rumor that came from what is considered a pretty reliable source that has an effect on some of the things we've been talking about and the future for Disney Plus streaming of Star Wars. It's a rumor. I wouldn't necessarily call it spoiler, but if you're watching The Mandalorian, you might want to check out episode 238 of Echo Base, just saying, which we are going to go record right now. And if it's in YouTube, go ahead and watch it right after this video. In fact, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you should go and subscribe right now. Go to randomchatter.com/YouTube. Right below the video here, there's a little subscribe link. There's a button where you can get notifications when we go live or have new videos posted. So click that as well. And if you like the episode, hit the like button. That would help us out a lot. If you're more interested in just the audio, you can still do the YouTube thing. In fact, you can play it on YouTube and then just minimize your browser or whatever. Go back to what you're doing. Just catch the audio. Or you can get the audio podcast. It's randomchatter.com. We have a Discord server. We plug that every episode here. And with good reason. Because not only does it give you a way to interact with us, it gives you a way to interact with the rest of you, the rest of the audience. And we are bringing some changes to it in the next few days. So this is a great time to hop in if you haven't already. Go to randomchatter.com/Discord and
Hop like a frog lady.
Yeah. Yeah. Hop in and talk like a frog lady.
Space spiders.
Or don't do that. As long as you don't make us watch you eating raw eggs. That's, I think, really the only criteria we have. Yeah. Otherwise, everybody's welcome. So again, randomchatter.com/Discord. And then finally, if you'd like to help support the network, you can do so either by going to randomchatter.com/Patreon or /store. And you can pick up some perks or some merchandise through either of those two. We are a nonprofit organization that doesn't go to our pockets. That goes to the operation of the network. So that's going to do it for this episode of The Outer Rim. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. You guys have a great evening. And we will be back at you very shortly with more great Star Wars content. So stay tuned.